Hello and welcome to another episode of It's More Than Just Sports, a show that we take a look at topics that affect us all, not just on the court, but off. I'm your host, Stephen Babb. Today I'm joined by a panel of Mike Molberg, Nikki Requejo, and Miles Perry. We'll be discussing self-image and social media, and it's a really important topic, I think, for younger people, Mike, to kind of take a look at how you're conducting yourself on social media. What do you think about that?
Well, a lot of people don't realize is, you even see it in some athletes when they get drafted, is some old tweets pop up or some old posts pop up. And, I know, there's been a couple times I've applied for jobs, and the first thing they do is look at your social media, say, do you have a Facebook? Do you have an Instagram? Do you have a Twitter? Take a look at that. A lot of kids nowadays, we'll see our buddy, he might post something stupid, oh, let's all roast him and say something. But some people don't know your future employer can actually see that and can actually come back to bite you in the long run. Who knows?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I'm safe in assuming that all of us here have some kind of a social media platform, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, whatever out there. Miles, what do you think about things that you post, not just pictures, but also things that you say on social media?
They could hurt you, honestly. They could, like Mike was saying, they could come back and bite you a lot. And I try to think about what I say before I post it, because especially when it comes down to sports, I could say anything. Mm-hmm. And it could come out of a good place or a very, very bad place.
I agree.
And so I think about what I say more, but sometimes stuff slips out, and I just have to cover my tracks. Honestly, delete the tweet or just go back and be like, I didn't mean it in that type of way. Because, like you said, it could come back and bite you.
Absolutely. And so now that we've kind of talked about, speaking on social media, Nikki, how important is it to actually have a visual self-image of yourself that's seen in a positive way?
Well, I think social media, it can be, like they said before, it can be harmful, but I think there's two mindsets when it comes to social media. It can be, the closed mindset, which is it can be harmful, or you can have the other mindset, which is social media can make you grow and connect with the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. It's just how you do it. So self-image, especially as a woman, as a girl, it has a lot of impact. You have all these models, all these, personalities, famous personalities that are reflecting a body image or certain expectation that the world follows. So all the girls or all the people are I want to be like her, I want to be like her. So I think that's the negative connotation out of it.
Yeah.
I think they should project more of be yourself. Everybody's different, there's multiple colors, flavors, sizes. Mm-hmm. Just be yourself. I think social media is not focusing that enough, and especially as a woman, yes, I'm adult, I'm mature enough to say I'm this is Nikki, I'm good with who I am. Mm-hmm. But my 13-year-old cousin is not thinking that. She's thinking of I'm not thin enough, or mm-hmm. I'm not white enough, or I'm not, I don't know how to do my makeup that way, then I'm not pretty.
Yeah.
And that's gonna bring bigger issues, depression or not self-control or overweight problems, that social media are reflecting that in a negative way.
Yeah, I have a daughter, she's 3. And I know that a lot of self-image and self-esteem comes from very young, and things that might have been said to you when you were a child, or as you were growing up in your early years, that's when you start to develop your self-image, and you kind of learn how other people see you. Just talking about maybe music and entertainers and kind of the things that are being done. There's an artist in particular, Cardi B. Now, it's not my type of music. It's out of my generation. But to know that my daughter is, 3, she's too young for that now, but to know that there's artists out there that are looking up to Cardi B that want to emulate her. For instance, Nicki Minaj came first. A lot of people say Cardi B is kind of modeling her career after Nicki Minaj. It scares me that kind of stuff is out there and seen as being popular, beautiful, and what you want to aspire to. So, Mike, what do you think about, this kind of image that's out there, especially as it pertains to maybe, personalities and people in music?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first thing I keep thinking back to is the big thing in our area is you hear a lot of Lil Uzi, Lil Durk, you see a bunch of this little stuff. And what's another thing you see? You see dyed hair, and you see a bunch of face tattoos. I feel like if you look out and you're like, oh, in 2018, I want to be a big rapper, I want to make money, I want to be popular, what do I got to do? I say, hey, dye your hair, get a couple chains, do a couple face tattoos, slap on the auto-tune, you're pretty much good to go. But, I mean, for a little kid, for a little kid to see that and be like, oh, yeah, I want to have a face tattoo, like, I mean, that's crazy, you know?
It is crazy, but I like that you brought that up because yes, a lot of kids are looking to be like them. But for example, there's this song that Becky G, it's this artist that just came out, and she talks about doing drugs and special things that a lot of parents were like, oh my god, my 13-year-old is listening to that, now they want to do it. And the artist, she said I understand why you're alarmed, and I understand how you feel. However, if you do good parenting, your son and your daughter are not going to do that. You know what I mean? And yes, for example, us, we grew up seeing all the artists messing up, doing drugs, rappers. But you don't see me, getting, doing drugs in the middle of the day, or getting surgery done just because Nicki Minaj is on the top 10 list.
Yeah, I agree.
It's because my parents were right there with me, and they taught me good things. So I think that's the key also when it comes to social media. There's time and ages for young adults to use social media.
Yeah.
So parents are the main thing for that.
And having that good kind of platform to kind of build and grow from, as you're growing up. But, not everybody gets that. Not everybody has that. So it does get tricky. But I mean, we can take drugs and music and go back to the 50s and rock and roll. And in the 60s with, the kind of hippie generation coming up and kind of how that influenced everybody moving forward. I mean, even disco in the 70s with a lot of drug use. Then rap started in the 80s, and there's definitely a lot of drug use connected to that. Sorry, I know I'm talking way above your guys' heads because you guys have no idea what I'm talking about. But, it's been something that's been relevant in popular culture for decades now, over half a century. So, Miles, kind of looking at that, how do you kind of steer yourself clear of, the trappings of self-image and social media and what is deemed as popular?
Well, when it comes to social media, I kind of have to take a break from it because it's so much information coming at you so fast, and it's dang, you get caught up in this and you get caught up in that, and it's overwhelming. So I tend to just take a break, go outside, hang out with some friends, and a lot of kids, you don't see that nowadays, going outside. I grew up in the era where basketball or riding your bike around, playing in the park, going outside and throwing a baseball, football, whatever.
Until the street lights came on.
Exactly.
That's what mom
Yeah, that's my mom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I actually wasn't allowed to hang out in the house.
Well, yeah, exactly.
It's I had to go to the backyard. I had to go do something, whether that's just throwing a tennis ball against the house. I had to be outside doing something.
Exactly. You got to be active. And that helps, especially when you're growing up, and it kind of, I think you said earlier, it shapes who you are. Mm-hmm. And social media, it's kind of taking that away from kids. I see 5-year-old kids with tablets nowadays. Mm-hmm. Where's your toys at?
Yeah.
They just shut down Toys R Us.
They did.
And I remember I used to get so excited because my mom was like, we're going to Toys R Us. And I was like, oh my God. But it's good that you're bringing that up because, you see these kids, 5-year-old with tablets, and it's parents are just giving those gadgets to their kids just because they don't want to take the time to make sure their kid is chill and okay. I remember my mom used to literally grab me and be like, hey, it's time for you to sit down, relax, or she would talk to me or give me colors just to keep me distracted. She would never give me just her phone, or well, at that time it was the Blackberries. She would never give me her Blackberry just for me to be chill.
Yeah.
And right now parents are just oh my God, you're crying, take the tablet.
Yeah. My daughter has an iPad mini, but she actually has to do things to be able to get to use it. So she just the other day she counted to 115. She's 3. She can count to 10 in Tagalog. She can count to 10 in Spanish. So there's things, there's definitely ways that you can use it, I think, as a tool to help. But I think having limits and restrictions and also, being able to earn the privilege, because it is a privilege to have an iPad. I mean, there's adults that don't have iPads and iPhones.
Absolutely.
And, but there are a lot of, kids out there that do. So I think it can be used, as an important tool, but I think you definitely have to be smart about it when you are a parent.
Especially with all the misinformation because we get really useful information in the internet, social media. It's a great tool. It's a great networking tool. Like, I'm all for it. However, there's really big misinformation things that people do. For example, there was a couple months ago this incident that a lot of girls and some boys were doing they would put cups in their mouths and they would suck in it for the longest time, and then rip it up so their lips would look
Kylie Jenner.
the
Like
Kylie Jenner
Botox.
channel, and they would do
Yeah.
that because they don't have the money to obviously get the procedure that these really famous artists got, so they would do it like that, and they would suffer really bad medical conditions just by doing that.
Yeah.
So it's crazy how the maturity in the social media users is not there.
Yeah.
It's non-existent.
Yeah, and you touched on something that kind of plays into that, but you touched on using it for networking and for business. Mike, have you considered using social networks for a business or a professional use?
Yeah, my grandpa and I waited to use Carla in Lincoln, so he said, I know it's a big social media area, so do what you gotta do. So I had the YouTube channel, I'd put the cars on, and the Instagram, the Facebook, the Twitter. I didn't have the MySpace because I don't think many people use MySpace no more. But I mean, social media, it's crazy, how important it is in our day and age. I mean, you can even look at it in the car business, for example. People are able to now buy a car, shop online, get everything, and have a car sent to them without having to talk once to a salesman, without having to step once onto the floor of a sales floor or do a test or anything like that. It's changing. I mean, you can even order food now and have it sent to your house. I mean, it's
Uber Eats.
yeah. And then you got Bitcoin. You can make money, so you never gotta leave the house. I mean, you got everything. So it's crazy how much.
It's a great tool.
Yeah, and I have, let's say Instagram, for instance, and Twitter. I have a professional Twitter and Instagram that is public, that I am, I try to be careful. It is sports related, so I'm not the best at being able to police the things that I say on there. And I know it could eventually come back to get me. So even if I do hit that send, I always try to erase it. But that doesn't always work. Thankfully, I'm not famous yet, so it's not that big of a deal. And then my personal Instagram, for instance, is private, and then I can, chat with people who can only see me or whatever, make posts that only people can see. Miles, with social media, do you see it changing going into the future where people will start to use it more responsibly?
That's I want to say yes, because I feel like people are going to use it for more business purposes, because you see a lot of people, especially on Instagram, getting famous just off videos, advertisement, and stuff like that. So I feel like just depending on how you want to use it, really.
Yeah, and a lot of companies are using it as a huge marketing tool, especially if you have a large following on Instagram. They will actually pay you to endorse their products, which is it's an interesting way of marketing and advertising. I think that is in its infancy. We haven't seen this type of stuff before. Nikki, what do you think about that moving forward?
I love it. Especially, I have an online coaching business, and for me, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, they're my work tools. So, with companies reaching out to you to make their business grow, but at the same time helping your business grow, because at the same time you're sharing your followers, you're sharing that to your people, but you're also gaining their people, so you're making your business grow. So I think it's a great partnership. I think companies and people should still pursue that. Also, it's all about the mindset. It's all about with what companies you get, a partnership. It's all about thinking how you do the things, because like I said again, social media it reflects who you are. So you're gonna reflect the company that you like decide to partner yourself with, and vice versa. It's all about right decisions, timing, when to do it. But I think it's a great tool to make yourself to grow, and then your company too. So I think they should pursue it.
Yeah, and I think for young people, especially teenagers and those coming up in this social media age, there's always going to be things out there that aren't the best influence. You'll see things that maybe aren't the most, I don't know, just the most appealing, the most beneficial to you, that are going to kind of skew your ideas of self-image. I know for me, when I was growing up, a big thing was, the Budweiser girls. You guys don't have no idea what I'm talking about. But Budweiser girls, they would, in commercials, in bikinis, they'd be in hot tubs, they would be partying with beer. Now, as a child, I knew that wasn't exactly, marketed towards me, drinking beer and all that. It's definitely an adult thing. And I think now things are being marketed towards younger people and less marketed towards older people. So even the alcohol and tobacco industry are heavily marketing towards teenagers and showing them things that aren't necessarily positive images of just self-images and things moving forward. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic, and it's definitely one that I think a lot more young people need to start paying attention to. And paying attention to, as consumers, the things that you're buying and the things that you put your money to, and maybe those companies, not having the best reflections on young people as a generation coming up. So that's going to do it for this episode of It's More Than Just Sports. I hope you've found this informational, and definitely take a look at how you conduct yourself on social media moving forward. I'd like to thank my panel, Mike Mulberg, Nikki Requejo, and Miles Perry for joining me today, and I'm your host, Stephen Babb. Until next time.